Welcome back to Scriptures Unlocked. I'm Elias Monroe.
And I'm Rachel Sinclair. Today we're stepping into one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood sections of the Bible. Genesis chapters 1 through 11, what scholars call primeval history.
The book of Genesis is usually divided into two major sections. Beginning in chapter 12, we meet Abraham, and the story becomes more personal, more grounded in identifiable history.
But before that, Genesis 1 through 11, we're in a very different world. A world of creation, the fall, the flood, and the Tower of Babel. This is what scholars call primeval history, the story of the earliest ages of humanity.
And it's important to understand, this isn't history in the same way we think of later biblical narratives. It describes a time fundamentally different from the patriarchs, and from our own experience today.
These chapters are theological in scope. They answer big questions. Where did we come from? Why is the world broken? What is humanity's relationship to God?
Now, interestingly, both biblical tradition and secular archaeology agree on one major point. Human civilization began in the ancient Near East.
Yes, and while assigning exact dates is difficult, archaeologists generally place the earliest permanent human settlements around 7,000 to 8,000 BC.
What's fascinating is that Genesis reflects this same region as the cradle of humanity. The rivers mentioned in Genesis, like the Tigris and Euphrates, anchor the biblical story in that same geographical space.
So how did humanity move from scattered individuals to full civilizations? It happened in stages. First, there were stone tools, simple but revolutionary. These allowed early humans to hunt, build, and survive more effectively.
Then came the development of pottery, clay vessels that allowed people to store food and water. That may sound small, but it changed everything. Storage means stability. Stability leads to settlement.
After that, humans learned to extract and use copper, and eventually, by around 3000 BC, they mastered bronze, creating stronger tools and weapons.
And eventually, something even more transformative: agriculture.
Farming was the turning point. Once humans learned to cultivate crops, everything changed. By around 3000 BC, people in Mesopotamia and Egypt were using advanced irrigation systems to control the flooding of the Tigris, Euphrates, and Nile rivers.
And for the first time in history, food could be produced in surplus. That's huge. Because surplus food means population growth, specialization of labor, and eventually cities.
And not just cities, kingdoms, and even empires.
The period from 3000 to 2000 BC, known as the Early Bronze Age, saw the rise of some of the world's first great civilizations.
Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, Ur.
And in Egypt, the Old Kingdom.
These weren't just political systems, they were entire worldviews. These societies developed writing, architecture, legal systems, and organized religion. But one thing they all shared was this:
polytheism. They worshipped many gods. Gods of the sky, the sea, the sun, the moon, fertility, storms, animals. Every force of nature had a divine identity.
And this is where the Bible becomes truly radical. Because into a world filled with many gods, Genesis introduces one God, creator of everything. Not part of nature, but ruler over it.
Think about that contrast. Ancient myths often describe creation as a battle between gods. But Genesis says, God speaks, and creation happens. No struggle, no rivals, just authority.
And that tells us something profound. Primeval history isn't just explaining what happened, it's declaring who God is.
And it also explains humanity. Created in God's image, fallen through rebellion, scattered through pride, as seen in Babel.
These early chapters set up everything that follows. By the time we reach Abraham in Genesis 12, the stage is set. A fractured world, a divided humanity, and a God who begins a plan to restore it.
So when we read Genesis 1 through 11, we're not just reading ancient stories. We're reading the foundation of the biblical worldview.
It's the story of beginnings, of creation, civilization, and the human condition itself.
And, on that note, we're at the end of today's episode.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.